Broadcasting from the heart of Hollywood, just south of the wall. This is The Night is Dark. I'm Ken Napzok, joined by Tiffany's Tweets, Tiffany Smith.
Hello.
Per usual.
Yep.
This is the podcast where we break down Game of Thrones. Usually Maude Garrett is here, but she's on a vacation to High Garden, so our favorite fill-in and very knowledgeable bookie, Michelle Boyd, is back.
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We'll have you back for this.
Some for all of you now.
Yeah. This was another. Well, they've done it again, and we're going to break into it. But you, of course, find this show. We're right now live on live stream. If you're watching, thank you so much.
Yay.
Courtesy of the fine folks at I See the Frog, David and Alex behind the scenes there, setting up some stuff for us. Audio versions of this podcast will be available on the Napzok Files podcast feed. And that's on iTunes, Podomatic, and Stitcher. And, of course, YouTube is where you can find the video version later on Geek Bomb's YouTube page. And then our bonus shows on your YouTube channel, Tiffany.
Just look for Tiffany M. Smith or just Tiffany Smith YouTube. And I always put up the And Full of Terrors bonus videos. Last week, it was all of our questions about the White Walkers, the Whites. We shall see what this week's episode will be.
The Dance of Dragons is this week's episode. And I'm getting tweets already, and I'll tell you this. Yay, Stannis!
No, Ken.
Way to go!
I think you've officially got to kill your love for that guy.
Yeah.
What do I do with all my merchandise?
I just have to say that Stannis,
I have a lot of Stannis memorabilia at home.
Stannis has officially overtaken, I think, how terrible Ramsay Bolton is. I'm going to give you the reasoning why I think this.
Okay.
Ramsay never pretends that he's a good guy. He always leaves his ugly out in front. Everybody knows what he does, what he's about. Stannis is like, oh, daughter, I mean, I should do what I need to do to make things happen, to be the man I'm supposed to be, and kind of like tricks her into saying, I want to help you, Dad.
Well, I just didn't like
really awful and
the way
worse.
He brought it up,
It's
he's
worse.
Like, if you're being true to the man you are and who you're supposed to be, there really is no choice. I'm like, yes, there is.
Yep.
Yes, there's a choice. You're making it right now.
Yeah, you know, but
Ken.
Yeah. Look, I know. I'm going to try to hold to it. I just maybe got to.
No, you're not.
We'll get to that part of the show later. Episode directed by David Nutter, excellently directed.
Yeah.
There's some beautiful shots, and there's also some. Some never-ending story stuff at the end that we're going to discuss. That didn't look that well. And let's dive in. We start in the North last week, of course. I mean, we had the main event of main events, Jon Snow versus the Night's King. That one had everyone talking. How many times did you watch that episode, Michelle, this week?
4 times. I watched that scene 4 times, which was basically the episode.
Yeah.
Yes. I needed to see what was going on with the dragon glass. I wanted to see what was going on with Karsi and her kids. And, were those her children that were zombies? No, they weren't. But she's going to let them kill her anyway.
And that's her name? That's her name?
Karsi, yes.
You dug that up. Because we were wondering.
Karsi.
Yeah, I feel like when we looked on IMDb maybe last week,
it was Wildine Sheaftis for a while, and we thought maybe Mother Mole, but
because it was
Karsi.
such a strange thing to have all this character development, and then that's going nowhere.
But it's really not that strange for Game of Thrones when you think about it.
But within one episode, I was surprised that they didn't give us more of a payoff with her.
But I feel like that's also because we're not going to wipe out one of our main characters. So let's give you one and have you connect with her a little bit, and then you'll feel something. But it's like the ones that we really knew well, they couldn't take them out.
What's the one lesson in Game of Thrones?
The giant always wins.
Do that, and don't
beware of zombie kids.
Don't kill the zombie kids, and don't ever feel connected to someone.
Yeah.
As I learned this week, because I've been connected to Stannis since season 2. So in the North, the army is cold.
Yep.
The Stannis' army, they are dying. They are not having food to eat. They are grumpy. They are having trouble getting to Winterfell.
Well, and I think this episode for me, I enjoyed the opening so much because I think sometimes on shows they don't trust the audience to know that you remember what was talked about before. So this episode opens up and there's no real explanation of what has happened. The fires just start. And you're like, oh yes, that was when Ramsay was like, just give me 20 good men.
Proving Ramsay kind of knows his stuff when it comes to military activities.
He does. I mean, he knows how to sneak attack. Let's put it that way. Lies, treachery, these are Ramsay's standholds. So I didn't really know what he was going to do either. I thought he might go up to Stannis and say, hey, I'm a Northern Lord. Let me join you, and kind of take him down that way. But I like this. This was quick. This was done. And now Stannis is in trouble.
When has he lied?
He lied
Ramsay?
to Theon at the very beginning. He said he was a northerner. He said he was going to sneak him out and get him back
to his
home.
sister.
That was the only time. I feel like every other time he hasn't
You're
lied.
right. Ramsay is pretty honest in his brutality.
Yes.
We'll give him that.
Except
give
for
him
that
that.
first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But every other time.
And I like last week when Ramsay was like, he went all like Expendables, like I just need 20 good men.
Yeah.
And this week he did it. It was I thought it was a pretty good opening sequence.
Yeah.
And of course, Melisandre comes out and like that fire. I thought maybe she was like, oh,
She was
party
doing
started.
something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the burning horse goes flying by.
Which I was like, hey, look, there's the White Walker's horses.
I thought, well, that's a step closer to dinner.
Artax!
Well, which
Right.
is what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I would expect her to be able to control the fire a little
Yeah.
bit more.
But the thing with her is that it's like she doesn't actually ever control the fire. She puts things in it and can read it. That's it. She doesn't get to be like, and now fire light, and now do this.
She's not an X-Men.
I don't even think, exactly. I don't even think she knows what is going to exactly happen
Right.
when she connects with the Lord of Light. It's just like, I know I'm supposed to do this, and he'll do whatever is supposed to happen.
Could she also, I agree with you, I don't think she could have necessarily stopped all that fire, but I mean, could she have been like, this is chaos. Chaos is a ladder. Stannis is going to really need me now.
I mean, I'm sure it kind of worked in her favor, but she probably
Yeah.
was just going along with, well, this is just the Lord of Light's plan, and this is the journey now to killing your daughter.
Well, and I think if that had not happened, I don't know that Stannis would have followed through on what he ended up doing in this episode, because it was like they literally were at their wits' end. There's nothing else they could do. They can't go back to Castle Black. They can't move forward. There's no food. Everybody's dying. Now it's even worse because they've lost all their horses.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they got some extra meat out of it, but so it was like, I feel like that she could say, it was all part of the Lord of Light's plan.
Right.
Because
She's going to go take one of her baths and be like, hey, I found it. I got the plan.
Demon Shadow, baby.
I got
Here
the
you
plan.
go. And
Smoke
can we
vagina
just,
monster.
And can we just notice that Stannis knew this was the wrong decision because he sent Davos away.
Right. Absolutely.
He sent his conscience, he sent his little Jiminy Cricket off to
Yeah.
the wall
Right.
just because he knew he was about to do some bad shit.
Do some bad stuff. But before that, the wall, we go back to the wall. And Sir Alistair Thorne, who I actually like, I seem to like rough, mean men. I think he's a good leader, but that's another thing. He's there, Snow and Liam Neeson Giant, and everyone else has come back. And there was a moment, did you think for a second, Tiffany, that Thorne was going to say, nope?
I did. There was a brief moment where I was like, is he going to like dump stuff on them? Are they going to shoot arrows at them? Because John looked worried. Like, I think that moment was the only reason why I was like John needed to walk up with a little bit more confidence. I'm like, why is he actually scared they're not going to let him back in? They already talked about it.
Right.
They knew it was going to happen. This is the best case scenario that he shows up with a bunch of wildlings.
Yeah. And for the free folk, for a lot of them, this is the farthest they've gone south. It's a big moment for
Most
them.
of them have never even seen the wall.
Right.
I mean, it was just that one raiding party with Mance Raider that got taken down that was going to breach the wall, and then everyone else was going to come in. But this is major for them. And by the way, like I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do now, because you mentioned before they're going to need to feed and clothe and house all of these wildlings, and they're not really long on supplies either. And, it's not like any of these wildlings know how to farm. So sure, give them land, but then what?
Yeah.
Well, and that was also where, when you go back to Stannis and when he sent the Onion Knight away, he was like, so go to Castle Black, get me food, get me horses. And I'm like, bro, you don't realize that they just got a whole crap ton of other people. They were already running out of food, and now they have like a whole nother group to feed. They're not going to be able to send you anything.
I'm also kind of thinking, though, that Stannis knew that. He just needed an excuse to send Davos away.
And Alistair says to Snow, you have a good heart, Jon Snow. It will get us all killed. Once again, and one of the lessons Game of Thrones always kind of teaches you, when you go with your heart, you end up with your head off or dead, or burnt at a stake.
But it hasn't happened that way for Jon.
Not yet.
Every time he's done every time he's done something, he's had the outcome that he needed to get. I mean, the best that he could have.
Well, I hate guys like that.
As long as Alistair Thorne doesn't say, I knew you'd come back, you always do.
Yeah.
Then he's safe. Then he's fine.
I'm like, also, John, don't ever say, I'll be right back.
It's just ever.
Yeah. And then a great moment, too, with Samuel now kind of offering advice to John. John leaning on him really in the
He
first
became a
kind of
man
clear
while
moment.
John was gone.
That's true. you think Sam was just kind of like, hey, I got something to tell you.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Come to the
Definitely.
storeroom.
Yeah. He's like, we got something to talk about. And John's like, we got something to talk about. You're right. There were White Walkers, and they raised an entire army from the dead.
Like, yeah,
He's
fine. But dude,
I had sex with Gilly.
The fact that Sam is here is a departure of the books we won't go into, but Michelle, as a bookie as you are, you look at this stuff, you look at the growth of Sam, that's kind of been a weird season. A lot of the same points have been hit, but this was, to me, kind of a big moment. What do you think? Was Sam kind of like, hey, let me help you through this, John?
I think it definitely was, but honestly, all I could really focus on was Ollie. That especially with what Sam told him last week, and that's where I think Sam gets into trouble, is because he has those good intentions, but he's not really thinking through what his words are going to say. And telling Ollie last week, sometimes you need to do what you know is right, even if you're the only one.
Yeah.
And Ollie just glaring down John. And I mean, that does not bode well.
In a game of Thrones, so good with surprises. What I'm trying to say, the Ollie stuff seems to be pretty heavy-handed. That something's going down.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's always focus on this little brat kid.
Well,
and
the same thing with
what's going to
Shireen.
happen?
Yeah.
It's like, are they going to have to take? Like, is John going to have to take him out at some point? Like, is it going to come down? Like, what are they going to do? We already saw that some of the wildlings cannot fight children.
Well, that one's dead.
So
She's been taken
just
care of.
saying. I'm just saying.
She's dead as a human. She's wandering right now, probably up at Hard Home.
Yeah.
Resurrected, which, by the way, never mind. It was from last week. What the hell was up? Why can't they cross running water? Anyway,
There was some debate online about that. A lot of them just think of the Night King was kind of like, hey, we just warming up here, all right?
Let's just show you what we got.
Main event still coming. So then we go back to Davos. You were going to say something? I cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just saying, let's focus on this week.
Yeah, true. And we go back to Davos, and this thing we were talking about where Stannis is like, hey, I got a mission for you. Well, anyone can do it. No, this is for you, dude.
Yeah.
And you knew something at that point bad was happening. Davos is gone again. We won't get too much into the book departures, but Davos kind of isn't really here anyways, so they needed a plot device to get him out anyways.
I also think that, the explanation that he gives, yes, I think part of it was that he knew what he was doing, that Davos would try and stop him, and that was not what he needed in that moment. But I also think what he said was true. He's like, if I send any messenger to John and I'm like, we need horses and food, and he says, no, we don't have it, what's that kid gonna say? Okay, and then come back and we're still in the exact same position. But you, I know, have the experience, have the weight to be able to say something and be like, no, we actually need this.
And again, Stannis knows, I'm going to listen to this guy. I'm too weak around this guy. He's like my best buddy, the drinking buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, I shouldn't date that fire girl. All right, I'll listen to you.
Made him the king's hand for a reason.
Right.
Well, if you're going to talk books, neither Shireen nor the mom are there at this point either. Both of them are still back
up at the wall.
Doesn't matter,
That's
guys.
it. I
No,
know.
but
I'm just saying.
it factors
That
in. It's not the books and there's been dramatic changes, but a lot of the stuff factors in where you're kind of like, what are they doing? They are dramatically changing some narrative that we know is coming, so that means it might be different. Or again, I always say this stuff could very well be Winds of Winter spoilers, because George will never finish that book. But and then
Please don't die, George.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
then we head over to Dorne.
No. You have that moment with Shireen and Davos, and this is their fun. Again, more clues if you're a veteran watcher of Game of Thrones.
Anytime there's sweet moments, somebody's gonna die.
Yep. They're nice. Oh, he gave her a stag. Oh, that's not. Oh God.
And Shireen, of course, reading A Dance of Dragons, the story of the Targaryen Civil War. She's like the World of Ice and Fire app you can have on your iPad. She's just rattling off the names in history. And that was I mentioned it only because we knew it was something bad was coming.
Yeah. It's also interesting because I feel like usually the titles are very telling of the episode, and yes, there have been ones where they've said the title. This episode, Dance of Dragons was said so many times, I feel like.
It's like the gift. It felt just every 5 minutes, which is fine. More dragons.
Would you like a gift? Yeah.
I present the gift.
So from there, then we go to Dorne, because you were so quick to go to Dorne. You like those Dornish people.
I love Dorne. I love seeing, I really like seeing what else is going on there. We haven't really experienced that much outside of the palace at this point.
Seeing some actual color every now and then is nice.
Yeah.
Being able to see characters' faces.
It's nice to watch these parts of the show where you actually don't have to adjust your TV's lighting.
I also think I like watching it because I'm like, I could be from there.
You could be, except for a lot of the stuff that goes on there. I think you might not want to be. You might want to go up to...
having sex with anyone is fine. Yeah. Which, although it does open with one of the most beautiful shots, I think, showing the kind of grandeur and splendor of this Dorne palace, which I personally enjoyed.
Upshot on Jamie as he's walking in. And what I loved about this scene was it's such a teenage conversation that they have when he walks in. He's like, nice dress. And she's like, I know. I'm really accustomed to the weather here. It suits me. And she's like in her like scandalous dress. I'm like, that's exactly what a father/uncle would say to their teenage
The note I put was teenage daughters, right, Jamie? Like, now you know what Ned Stark was dealing with.
Yep.
So we have a lot of people I know in the chat room too are expressing their displeasure of Dorne and the Dorne storyline, the Dornish plan, and all that stuff this season, and I agree. It was not executed to the best of their ability. That the show, even in its most controversial moments, it executes things pretty well. This season just came off. I ask you because you had no expectations of Dorne other than Oberyn.
Everything going on in Dorne this season so far feels a little bit, not one note, but like there's no
gray.
There's nothing going on behind the scenes with the stuff that you see, and that could very well change quickly, but it feels like what you see is what you get with all of these characters. It's like Illyria is the one who's pissed off. She's always pissed off. The daughters are the ones who are like trying to kill everybody. They're like fussy and fighting with each other. So there's not nuance to the characters, I feel like, in
From
Dorne.
a writing standpoint, it's not flushed out. Michelle, you are obviously someone who knows Dorne inside and out as a reader. Where are you at with this?
I mean, to be honest, they've changed so much from the books that I honestly just kind of try to look at the scenes just as they are now. I mean, they're introducing a lot of new stuff. They're trimming out a lot. But, you know, and like Tiffany said, they're simplifying it quite a bit. And I'm not enjoying it as much. It's more just like, oh, look at the pretty colors. I think it was kind of a nice moment, you know, with Ilaria changing her tack, but again, it felt too easy. Like, oh, just
that to me, though,
to me or
like,
die, and okay, so now what?
I don't. The scene with her where she goes to talk to Jamie, that was the scene where I'm like, okay, we're starting to get to flesh out these characters a bit more, and I think it's only because we have so many other characters, and it's like, okay, now that Jamie's there, we know who he is, so it's like, okay, that character can help to kind of get those nuances out of the other characters that we're still getting to know. So I feel like that scene where she goes to talk to him and, you know, asks him about his sister, and she's like, here, no one would care about that stuff. And so it was a nice moment because you saw that she is not one note. She does definitely have a different tactic that she's trying to use, and I don't know if she's trying to manipulate him or not. We'll have to wait and see.
She's all passion, and Prince Doran's all common sense. Tommy D says in the chat room, the writing for Dorne has been bad. As a non-book reader, I have no idea which Sand Snake is which or what their names are, and that's an excellent point.
Yeah, which I had a big problem with when they first introduced them, because from what I remember, the whole idea of the Sand Snakes is every single one is from a different paramour of Oberyn. We were talking about this before. We weren't sure if all three of them were Illyria's children, especially because they mentioned there's 4 daughters.
Even when they showed up the first time, the story that the one daughter was saying, where it was like, he came to get me, and I was like, so is she adopted, or she was living with her other mom somewhere else?
Living with her mom, because she said, pointed to my mother's tears. So I'm pretty sure it's still going with the story of each one is a different mother's daughter, and they're just kind of going with this weird, hey, all Dornish women look alike.
Right.
But the one thing I did want to bring up was because if you remember, and this is history now, Dorne didn't bow the knee to the Targaryens. Like they were separate. They stayed out of Robert's rebellion. They were not part of it. So it's interesting now to see the kind of alliance that he's trying to keep with the Lannisters and King's Landing. And the one thing I did want to just mention very, very briefly from the book that I'm sad they aren't seeming to bring up. At the same time, they're also secretly trying to have an alliance with the Targaryens. They're kind of sending... They're sending Quentyn, they're sending a different son that you never get to see, over to Daenerys to try to get her to marry him. And I think that illustrates Dorne better for me than they're showing it in the book.
But that's stuff where it's like when you talk about the books, we don't know. That could happen. So as a non-book reader, I'm like, don't say stuff like that.
It's already done. It's done. It's done.
That storyline is done by now.
They've so undercut the Dornish plan and all the storyline there. It is, and I think it affected it because the Dorne stuff fell so flat. And at the end, we'll talk more at the end of this episode. It just kind of wraps up in a tight little package and heads back on.
But I think there's still a chance that next season, it's like as we go further, they're going to develop more stuff with that area. It's hard. There's so many characters all the time, and so they're bringing in new stuff, and it's like they can't integrate another massively intricate political story where it's like we're going to put the Dornish people in, and also they're going to be trying to protect her daughter but also kill her, and then also be with the Targaryens, and then also do all this stuff when we don't actually know who the daughters even are.
Oh, just wait. I mean, they still have to bring in the Greyjoys some more, so we haven't even gotten to that.
Which the casting leaks from this week, the casting call shows, looks like we got some Greyjoys coming back next year.
Which I couldn't even keep straight in the books, so God help us all.
And I'm trying to lose more hair to maybe be Balon's stunt double.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we have to mention the Sand Snakes playing patty cake in the jail cell.
The sisters fight.
That was a little weird. But from there we go to Bravos.
And that's it.
That's it. That was. I saw Kyle in the chat room give just a face palm.
Yeah, that's really all it deserves.
So we have Lana of the Canals, not Kat, because that would be too confusing for us in TV land. She's selling her stuff, and lo and behold, we got the Dork of Dorks, Mace Tyrell, and Meryn Trant of the Kingsguard showing up.
Which I loved because last week's episode, when he's talking to Arya and he's like, I don't know what you were going to see when you go down to the docks. I just know you're supposed to go to the docks. And so it makes me believe that he knows way more, maybe not necessarily the day that they were going to show up, but that something was going to go down there. And so it was like, you're going to go back again tomorrow. Just keep going back. So it was cool that they showed up, and even for me, I was like, because this is way past what I read in the books, but where I'm like, wait, which ones are they again? Who are they? She wants to kill which one? So it was good just to get like that refresher, because that stuff happens so fast. Like the moment where the boat comes up, and I was like, who are they? And you see Arya look over, or Lana look over, and she's like, the guy was like, I want to buy some of your stuff. Nope.
Yeah. And of course, Meryn Trant killed Syrio Farrell, the dance master, the dancing master for Arya, all the way back in season 1. So he is on the list. And we knew something was coming. Not happening yet. Instead, we get to go to a fun whorehouse. A Bravosi whorehouse. Those ones got to be top quality. You're all right, fellas?
Gross.
Little disturbing stuff in there. Gross. Right, children?
Emphasis on children.
Yeah.
By the way.
They did a very good job with this character where you're building up. There's nothing likable about him. Like,
never has
even
been, right?
with his soldiers or with the other knights that are there, he's like, yeah, you can come in. I'm not going to pay for anything. Like, I don't like to share. And you're like, okay.
First round of whores on you? No. Okay.
I think it's nice.
I'll take a club soda.
Who may not remember him very well from the beginning. Because, there's been a lot of characters since then to be like, oh, no, we hate him. Like, right off the bat.
Because how much did we actually, like, did we have him that much aside from the fight that they had?
He's been kind of Cersei's
lackey a little bit.
Yeah, lackey, personal.
But not
Kingsguard.
that much.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like this almost was the most that we were seeing his true character of who he is, and where you're like, okay, you can totally kill him.
He's a registered sex offender.
Yeah, I did like the red herring of every time he kept looking over at Lana, and everyone going, does he recognize her? Is this how this is going to go down? No, that's probably not what was happening.
Young
yes
girls.
Yes, I think you're right, but also the way it played out, maybe there is a little bit of fog of memory, because he could have easily said, "Give me the girl selling the clams there," but he kind of had that moment again. I don't know. I get what I think we all thought that, but at the end of that scene, it was like, oh, maybe there's something going on.
I don't think that he recognized her. I think it was more about even though no matter that he was asking for a young girl is despicable, but I think it was that when they came in and they were like, get out of here, that he's like, Mom, I'm not going to mess with that. Like, it's bad enough what I'm asking for, but she's not even one
Tiffany,
of the girls.
I don't know. I've had some problems with some younger strippers before, and usually... Ficus.
Just stop.
It's all right, Ficus.
Ken is lying.
Her name was Vanity at Deja Vu in Vegas. It's a long story.
That.
Not true. It was Sapphire.
But so that whole scene, though, which I actually thought, like, not that I need to see more naked women, but it was actually, like, kind of weird on Game of Thrones that all of the girls coming in were clothed.
Maybe it's a Bravosi thing.
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, huh. This would never happen in Littlefinger's brothel.
Tiffany was like, wow, there was a lot less nudity than I normally would expect and want on the show.
Hear that? More nudity for Tiffany.
I'm just saying it was a difference. It was different than what you would see in Littlefinger's brothel. Yeah. That's for sure.
So this is a touch of a controversial scene, obviously, just a controversial topic that they introduced. But we have to hope that next week this pays off in dramatic needle-like fashion, right? We're all rooting for this now. You're on board.
My hope, and I think I tweeted this to somebody last week, but where I was just like, what do I think is going to happen in the last 2 episodes? And I was like, I really think that we're going to get Aya to make a face change. And so I want her to go back the next day and have like a new face, and then she kills the dude.
Jen Kemp had a good comment. It turned into Taken for a second there.
Yeah.
It was a little
bit.
A little awkward.
You think the faceless man sending Arya back means that he knew that she was going to meet Maren Trant? I don't know
that he knew. I feel like it's a lot like Melisandre, where it's like they don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they know that that person's supposed to be in that spot at like around that time. So it's like, keep going there. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, because he even said that when the other girl was like, she's not ready, and he's like, he doesn't, got as many faces, doesn't care.
I feel like it's kind of more of a choice. Like, she can, depending on what she sees, that's going to determine what her next step is. And she may not have noticed anything wrong with the gambler or the insurance scam. The fact that she noticed that, I think, meant that she was then ready to kind of take the next step.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to tell her that.
Rachel Cushing, our valued member of the chat room, Rachel says she'll kill Trant, but Jaqen won't be happy with her, which might be a little bit of a lesson. Again, you're Arya. This is what Arya wanted. This is your passion. This is your vengeance coming out. I wanted you to kill this dude, so that could play out in a weird way.
Well, I also think it's more about her telling him everything that's happening. Because the fact that she doesn't share is keeping it personal. If she went to him, if they were okay to kill the guy who's gambling because he's ruining families, if she went to him and was like, listen, he's like buying young girls at the brothel, I don't know that it would be something that he would be annoyed about, but it's like, you're not actually giving up who you are because you're still making this choice by yourself.
Right.
You're not coming to all of us and being like, okay, or our collective, whatever it is,
high faceless line.
Yes, to say that this is what's going on,
Right.
Yet he has already kind of given her, not necessarily an order per se, but she has a task she's supposed to do. And I thought she was going to choose to give the gift to Maren instead, and then, God help us all. But it didn't happen yet, so she hasn't made the choice yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully we'll get to see what happens.
I don't know.
Next week.
Next week. Is it a longer episode too? Is someone in the chat room maybe check that out? I know sometimes they expand a little bit in the last. They got a lot of things we hope to get to.
Holy moly.
And when we go back to Dorne, you mentioned it already, but this is Illyria's rebellion has been crushed back in Dorne, and she has to bend the knee and recognize Prince Doran as her sovereign leader again. She open mouth kisses his ring, and it kind of that's it. It's it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And meanwhile, it's like, okay,
do you actually believe her though?
I do, actually.
Really?
Especially with the moment afterwards with Jaime. Like, Yeah, I think, or at least maybe she's more focused. Like,
Yeah.
I think if she was put in the same room with Cersei, she probably wouldn't be the nicest to her. But I think she was sincere. I think she did kind of bend.
Think she was
Doran.
humbled by the whole process during the season, or
But that's my problem.
or just foiled?
I think there was no
just
jump.
foiled.
I mean, I'm sorry, it was just such a jump.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just kind of went to him yelling at her to her bending the knee again.
Yeah.
and that just. It didn't
Again,
ring
not
true.
flushed out, because we can accept Prince Doran as kind of more of a common sense based leader. She's running on passion, which I don't think we could fault her for. She watched her paramour be crushed to death. You can get her point of view, but it just seemed, again, it was just like, all right.
And then,
But I do think the moment where it's like she cries for a second, and it's like that moment of release where her daughters see her, and it's like she broke. It's like, okay, I've been fighting, and now it's like I lost. My plan got foiled. And where she's talking to Jamie, and she's like, I know your daughter had nothing to do with anything that happened, because I think that she realizes, what she was trying to do, until seeing like Jamie show up and be like, oh, she actually has family. This girl is not actually the target of my vengeance. So I think that part felt a little more genuine to me, that, okay, she is really going to talk to Jamie to explain the situation and why she feels the way that she feels. Now, I don't know if the Sand Snakes are going to feel the same way, because the look when she started crying, they looked like, ugh.
Yeah.
Why is she crying?
Yeah, that was a strange moment with them.
So if Dorne is brought back in some fashion next year, are you going to trust what they can do with it?
Well, they are, because Tristane's going to be on the small council.
But that doesn't mean that we're going to be in Dorne.
That's true, but Dorne is going to be, I guess, represented in some way. Which, I mean, do we really want to see more Tristane so far?
He's
really handsome. He is really handsome.
Rachel Cushing asked the question, so was Ilaria the one that sent the necklace?
Yes, I thought that was pretty well implied, if not directly said, because just of the look, I mean, we know Doran didn't know anything about it from the look that he gave Ilaria, so I guess you're supposed to infer that Ilaria would be the type of person that would steal the necklace from Myrcella's room and would send it to Cersei.
And that I think was, we talked about that, where we're like, why is he not telling her, Jamie, when he got there? Why did he not tell her, there was a threat against your life, that's why I'm here, you should actually be scared? And so it was this scene where it was like, okay, that actually got brought up, and you could see that she was like, my necklace did get stolen, and okay, so I get it, that there is actually a threat against me, and you came to protect me, and it wasn't just, my uncle/dad just coming to like show his power position, it was really, I love you and I'm here to protect you.
Yeah.
And I think that the conversation where it was like, Tristane's gonna come back with you, it was like, okay, the little brattiness in her was like, I'm fine because I still get my boyfriend.
Exactly. It's like her whole demeanor changed on a dime.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, okay, Romeo's coming. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Quick thing, though, actually. If you remember from last episode where Cersei asked, has anyone heard from Jamie? And so I thought they were going to touch on why Jamie doesn't seem to be concerned about the fact that his sister's imprisoned back home.
But I don't think anybody knows this stuff.
But
like,
that's the
even
thing.
with Tyrell, I don't
think. See, but I
don't think they've been there long enough. And they can't send word because they don't know where he is. Like, how are you going to
Cersei knows.
Yeah, but what's she going to do? Send word to Dorne and be like, I think my brother came to like try and steal my daughter back.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
And
she's not going to blow up his spot like that.
Yeah, she was very cagey little type. He's on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
Alderaan. Oh wait,
that's the thing I was thinking too is like with Marjorie's dad, just like singing and hanging out. I was like, does he not know that his daughter is in prison? Like,
I guess ravens don't fly very fast.
Brother? I mean, his son too. Yeah.
Mason probably like, well, I've got to do what the Queen wants me to do.
Yeah.
So I do have one final question on Dorne for you, Tiffany.
Yes.
You last season were a big fan of Ilaria Sand. In fact, I recall you even cosplaying.
I did cosplay as her.
I remember helping you pick that dress out early on. Don't ask me how or why.
Difficult task for you, I'm sure.
I'm sure it was. But you don't really like her much this season. Was it the hairstyle? Was it just the short hairstyle?
Did she go off Felicity on you?
I feel like this whole season, and like we were talking about it now, where it's like it feels.
Sorry, that's
like
the greatest haircutting reference in pop culture history.
The Felicity one? Yeah. That she wasn't really fleshed out, and even in the first episode, that she came back this season, it just felt really jarring, where everyone was like, what is the accent? She didn't really talk like that last season. Yeah. So I don't know if it was, and I don't know if saying caricature-y for them is the right adjective.
I know what you mean. Again, going back to her accent in the first time, it was a lot more pronounced and
and it feels like she's so different. One note. It was just like, I just want to kill everybody. I just want to kill everybody. Like, we're gonna do this thing, and there was nothing else.
We're going to war. Never mind. Oh, kiss that ring.
Yeah. So I think now this episode was the first one where I was like, okay, she's actually getting to do more, and it's one of those things where it's like, maybe they shot more stuff and the episodes were too long, so that kind of stuff had to get edited out, or the writing wasn't there, she didn't get those scenes. So I'm a little disappointed because I definitely was excited to see more there. She is not one of my favorite characters anymore.
It felt like there was scenes missing.
Yeah.
For her specifically.
Yeah. You're right. You guys are both right on that. The cutting room floor probably contains some stuff there that. Jokes aside, it's a question. Well, and the character definitely downgraded from. We all I liked her last year because she was also damn sexy, and the stuff with Oberyn was awesome and everything. And this season, I would have totally been behind her because we all loved Oberyn and we want revenge for Oberyn. And
well, and the other thing about it too is that she just comes in and there's nothing to attach onto that's likable about her character this season. It's like everything she does is kind of annoying.
I'll bet.
And the hard part is Rome is one of my favorite shows of all time. So I know that she's an incredible actress. If you've not watched Rome, definitely check it out. But she's an incredible actress, so I know she can carry more. So it's not one of those things where you're like, the acting's not great. It's like they just didn't get to do that enough in Dorne.
I think she has a great presence, beautiful woman, talented actress. I mean, this is nothing, a mark against her. It's just that you can only do with what you've been given.
Yep.
And in this one, it was like, go stomp and pout a lot.
Yeah.
And get angry.
Well, I hope she goes back with them. To
King's Landing?
Yeah, I hope she does.
That could be interesting.
Because I think seeing her there last season, it was like there was so much more she got to do and play with. And, she also was a lot stronger this season. And again, it could have been writing too where it's like she lost the love of her life. So it's like she had to be a little bit more broken and a little bit less put together than she was last season.
Yeah.
But strictly from a diplomatic point of view, does it make sense for Dorne to send her back to King's Landing, right back to where she's gonna be all pissed off again? So
I know
as much as I would love to see her, I think she does deserve to go back and have some more scenes. I don't know if it makes the most sense.
I think the Sand Snakes will go back.
And I'm seeing,
that I would like to see.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a conversation between Jen and Rachel. You guys are so great in the chat room, and I wish I could call out all your comments, but they're talking about one of the first things Ilaria wants to do is hurt a little girl, and Rachel says, or Jen says, well, that's the exact opposite of Oberyn would have wanted because, as Rachel says, we don't hurt little girls in Dorne.
Yep. Yeah.
So Ilaria, the character right from the start, kind of was outside the box and a little different.
But that's where I do think sometimes it's like that it didn't get explained enough, and maybe they got fleshed out more where it's like she lost the love of her life, and so it's like she's grasping at straws.
So you could get behind that, but then you're right. And that's, I think, our point collectively we're coming to here is like, oh, okay, she wanted to kill Marcella, but she would soon. That's just.
But that's not actually what she wants.
If you have all of that, and you have someone who's that broken to the point where they would suggest things that they would never otherwise do, you can't go from that to kissing a ring and being okay with everything again in less than an episode.
It's like me at a party after 3 whiskeys. A lot of character change happens.
A lot of smiling in photos.
Yeah.
Cheers.
This is only number 2. We're all okay. We're all going to be fine here. All right. Enough of the laughter. Let's go to Shireen's death.
Hooray!
All right.
Oh, gosh.
So
Speaking of hurting little girls.
We go to the forest on the way to Winterfell. Davos is gone, sent away, and Shireen and her dad have a little moment. It's a sweet moment, so it's all going to be worked out, right? She's once again, hey, Dad, let me tell you about what I'm learning on the app here about the Dance with Dragons when everyone died and got burned. Wasn't that hilarious, Dad? And you wanted Stannis. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. You wanted Stannis maybe to have a moment of clarity.
A change of heart.
There's one thing Stannis never does, and that is waver from the line that he toes. Unfortunately.
Yeah. That conversation, she's so sweet and intelligent and smart, and the things that she's telling him about the war between the Targaryens, where it's like, the whole reason that there was such a terrible war is because everyone was choosing a side. We don't need to choose a side. And so it's like there was wisdom in that he could have latched onto and said, I'm going to change my game plan here because I'm not sacrificing my daughter for the sake of the throne. But he did not do that.
I think there was a moment, no, trust me, go with me. There was a moment he was like, but no, it's not what I do.
Yeah.
It's not who he is. He thinks he is.
I don't know that it's not who I am, but it was more like, I don't see how that puts me in the position of what I'm supposed to become. Like, I don't see how me backing down is going to let me become the king that the Lord of Light has claimed that I am.
Nick Hopper just said it very well. He put his own ambition over his own daughter. Fail. Yeah, that's exactly. Everything else in the past has been, cut off your knuckles because you did this, and I owe you this, and I'll pay back that and that, and this one.
And I'll kill my brother, by the way, because he's blocking my rightful claim to the throne.
True. Again. So it's not a far stretch.
Yeah. But also, when he went to kill his brother, he didn't.
He gave him a chance.
He also didn't actually kill his brother. Someone else did.
Like it wasn't what was gonna happen.
But it wasn't. This the way that this went down. One, it's your own flesh and blood. I mean, brother, yes, is the same, but this is like your daughter that you raised. The scene that we already had with Stannis, where it was like that was the moment where I was on Stannis' side when he's talking about saving her from the grayscale.
Yeah.
And then he's just having this conversation with her, and you're like, you are a terrible father, like. And then we get to, which is crazy because I thought I hated the mom and I would never change my tune on her.
Yeah.
And she is the one who actually wants to change her mind in the last second.
It was a nice little moment of character building for her because up until now it's just been very like following Melisandre and you don't like her and she hates her daughter and okay, we'll have this moment now. A little too late.
Yeah.
But it was there.
What does this do to you ladies' opinion of my girlfriend Melisandre? Like what she's got to have some blame here, or talking just pure character-wise? I mean, this is is this part of a true master plan? Does she know what she's doing? Because she's very aware of what's going on beyond the wall. Yeah. So why would she still be like, let's go take Winterfell? Was taking Winterfell part of that? Where are you guys at with her?
I mean, I think that it was interesting because there was even a moment with her that I saw, and again, it could be like me wanting to see the good in people, but where the whole thing is going down and there looks like what? Shut it.
How is your buddy Ramsay doing?
I don't know. He wasn't on this episode, okay?
You and him going for a little coffee.
Oh my gosh, stop,
Ramsay,
guys.
talk about your week. How's your marriage going?
He was, though, because he burned down all the tents and made Stannis be driven to this decision. So really, Ramsay
he did not. It's not. No. No one can take the blame for this but Stannis. And I think that's where with Melisandre
kind of in there too.
But I don't think she puts a bug in his ear. He's the one who follows through on it. He
makes the choice.
She would not. She has never done anything. And I can't remember anything that she's done that she's gone about on her own and not run past him and gotten me okay. Like, she'll be like, this is what needs to happen. You need to tell me yes or no. And even with
except for maybe seducing John, but otherwise.
Well, but seducing John, I mean, yeah, she tried for it. And John was like, peace out. No.
You know nothing. Yeah.
But so I think that with her, it's like, it doesn't change my perspective on her because she's always had the same game plan since the very beginning. I'll do anything that the Lord of Light wants me to do to get everyone into the positions that I've seen to be right.
Right.
Which I agree with, but the problem with that way of going about things is her visions are not always right. Like, she could be misreading what she sees. It doesn't, it's her interpretation.
Yeah.
Her interpretation of what the Lord of Light actually wants. So things can go wrong and daughters get burned and...
Yeah. And it was a tough scene to watch. In an odd way, it was shot very well. It's tough subject matter to handle on a show that's been full of controversy since episode 1 of season 1.
Yeah.
And already Entertainment Weekly has released an article and interview with Dan and Dave. Dan Weiss talked about it, saying horrible things happened to people in the show, and this is one that we thought was entirely narratively justified. It was set up by the production predicament that Stannis was in. It will be awful to see, but it was supposed to be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also goes on to mention, just on a fan question, and I'm sure the internet will be a rage again this week, there's an interesting connection people make. They choose what empathy they have for characters. This is not the first person to burn at the stake. So, not to bring up the Sansa scene again, but we were talking off air, a lot of people had a real strong connection to it happening to Sansa. And when I, off air, have mentioned to some people, well, in the books, that's not who it happens to. Oh, okay, well, that's fine. It's a weird,
but it still happens, and it was worse.
Yeah.
So it's just...
I just want to take a moment, too, to say how great of an actress the girl is. And I don't know what her actual name is. The little girl.
The one who plays Shireen.
Because the whole walking up to... First of all, she probably has some of the more difficult, historical dialogue to have.
Yeah.
But then the scene where she's walking up and looking, she's excited because she's like, I'm actually going to get to help. I get to actually take on this position of being the princess, and I'm going to do something good, and my dad's going to be so proud of me. I want to be able to help.
Yeah.
And being able to actually be paraded in front of people as the daughter, because she's been kept away for so long. And so she's walking out, and you see that pride in her face, and then it's like, where's my dad? I want to see him. And then Melisandre's there and is like, it'll be over quickly. And you just see her face change. I just thought how great of an actress this girl is that she could pull that off in such a quick walking scene.
And it was
so
heartbreaking.
Great. Yeah.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Nick Hopper says in the chat room, and not a coincidence that this episode was directed by the same guy that directed The Red Wedding. Good memory there, Nick. Absolutely.
Nice.
Same kind of
emotional punch to the gut.
This is uncomfortable.
And she said Stannis's actual words back to him right before she started walking. I am the Princess Shireen Baratheon. I am your daughter.
Yeah.
It's just you're like, oh, you're gonna die.
Didn't Melisandre say that to her too at one point? When they were at Castle Black. She reminded her
about the grace, because Shireen felt bad about the grayscale, and yes, Melisandre said something. It didn't matter to the Lord of Light. You're your father's daughter. You have king's blood in you. That sort of thing. Slightly different context, but
yes.
Sorry, I'm still trying to hold on to Team Stannis and Waterfast 2012. Kind of, I'm paraphrasing him. This is like Spock. The good of the many outweigh the good of the one. Right? Am I right? Anyone with me? No. No?
N to the O.
Okay.
I also think this is
definitely
a game-changing moment for Stannis. Obviously, for your love for him, it should have changed drastically. But I think that, how stoic he was, he didn't even shed a tear. He was just like, this is what has to happen. Even while his wife is like, no, please don't make this happen. And she's calling out to him.
Yeah.
I think this scene is supposed to illustrate that there's no line he won't cross.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of knew it before, but he had those tender moments with Shireen. You're like, oh, he cares about something. No.
Well, it's also, he's gotten rid of everything that is his conscience. With the Onion Knight gone and his daughter, he doesn't love his wife really, and she doesn't have that much. She doesn't ever normally offer up any, kind of good conscience, angel on the shoulder kind of stuff. So now it's just him and Melisandre.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's gonna get bad.
Yeah. I've got about 70 Team Stannis t-shirts in my car if anyone wants to buy them.
Yeah.
I was waiting to, after this season, I thought I had you all in my hand here to buy these t-shirts.
Should have gotten rid of them.
Actually, after episode 4, I should have got it. So from there, we go to the WrestleMania of Marine,
man.
the fighting pits. The fighting pits, the scope and scale of this scene, and we're going to probably make some jokes about the CGI quality. And, hey, it is what it is. It's a TV show, but it isn't Land of the Lost. It's at least better than that, right?
Falcor!
Little never-ending story and all that stuff. But before we get there, I thought, did an excellent job of capturing the scope of the fighting pits. Am I wrong there, Michelle?
No, I loved it. Obviously going for the Colosseum, showing the scope of it, the grand, everything. And I actually felt the pride of the city. I got where his daughter was kind of coming from, of this is part of the culture of the city. This is what they do.
Yeah.
This
is for the glory. So it didn't seem, obviously it was brutal, and it got very brutal during the fights, but I kind of felt like that was part of the idea.
Yeah. Any kind of show, if you watch Spartacus or, that type of vibe, you get that feeling of, okay, yes, this is how everyone in the city would have behaved. They were excited about it. They wanted to, I mean, they came to watch the fight. They weren't forced to be there.
Right.
The scope of it, obviously, it was huge and looked great. And, you know, I think what was good about it, too, is that you got quickly what everyone's position was. Because, you know, Dani sits down, and then you have Dario behind her, and then you've got
That
Tyrion
scoundrel.
sitting there, and then you've got her stupid fiance.
And then his
Ugh.
dog, you're right, comes in
late
and says,
I'm late, but I was just
making sure everything's in order.
yeah.
I mean, if they weren't like throwing it down your throat that he was the son of the Harpies king, but
it's still wide open.
still
Still wide open,
And
but yeah.
there is something
Could be a
where
red
it's
herring.
like they don't necessarily, they're not usually that on the nose on Game of Thrones. So I'm like, is it something where they're really
Right.
trying to change, like confuse us, and we've all thought that it's been him the whole time, and then you see this episode and you're like, I don't think it can be him.
Right.
But it could, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be him. It could be Dario. It could be somebody completely we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah.
You don't know. But I mean, they were very obviously trying to set up from the very
Wait, it could be
start of it.
Dario?
I think that's a possibility.
You know, I hope so, because I hate guys like that. And I want them to, no, kid, I don't, yeah.
I
no.
never even thought about that.
I'm just saying, he knew how they hide. He knows how to fight. He doesn't really like masters. I'm just
Right.
saying, it's a possibility it's set up because I think his dart, I think it's a strong possibility for him, but I think it's almost too easy.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely, it could very well be a red herring. But they haven't really, other than Jerk Dario, they haven't really introduced.
They haven't put anyone else up there that could be a possibility. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah. There's no Green Grace. There's no any of those characters there. But so we get to the fighting.
Pate.
We get the pomp and circumstance. It's very pod racer-esque. A lot of flags, a lot of cheering, and wizard. And then there's a quick fight. Little beheading. What's Game of Thrones without a beheading, huh? Right?
The best part about it was that they're having so much conversation that's giving backstory, giving a lot of depth into these characters,
loved
not
this
like what we got in
conversation.
Dorne.
It was good,
But
yeah.
they're just chatting away. There's funny quips here and there, and then it's like, oh, well, he just got beheaded. Like, it wasn't even like, let's watch the fight. It was, we're all distracted, and then the guy dies.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I loved, can we talk about the conversations they were having?
Absolutely. Dig in.
It was so great.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyrion being able to comment without fear, without any of the politics. He's actually able to express his opinions, and him sparring back and forth with his star, who is intelligent. He's not saying completely untrue things, but I love the fact that they're kind of, now that we're sort of kind of wrapping up and only have 2 seasons left, we got to start thinking about what kind of leader Dani is going to be. And I love that this was one of the like more equal footing conversations that addressed that.
I think it also showed that with Jorah, with everyone that's kind of been the right hand to Dani up to this point, there hasn't been anyone who is of quote unquote royal blood that could just say what they were thinking without fear. You know, where Tyrion will just say things and it's like, I'm saying this because I believe it to be true, and you could try and kill me, but I'm also royalty. You know, so there's a different level of confidence when he says what he has to say. There's not a I just choked on my own spit. There's not hesitation.
The Lord of the Light.
The Lord of Light is sending a smoke monster into my throat, apparently.
So, no, David, your apartment. And by the way, we should pause in this very serious moment in the show to thank the listeners last week who alerted us that we were burning down David's apartment. Because last week David wasn't here, and we were in here along with our production engineer here, Alex, and we were so into the conversation that Tiffany had thrown an entire match into. I'm blaming you, and then the candle caught on fire, and then Maude threw a box of matches on it.
Well, no. Before the matches, she tried to fan it with paper.
But
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I, who, by the way, am a trained first responder and handle stuff like this often, pointed at it and moved my beer.
I just said though, I was like, I kind of wish it would have happened this week.
I'm so sad.
Because it would have been so perfect for this
I
episode.
looked at it twice too and just been like,
You're just like,
Because I knew what I had done. I put a match in there and I was like, the match is gonna burn out. It'll be fine. I've done that before. Whatever.
So, quick pause in the show to thank you all again out there in listening audience for saving our lives last week and not causing Dave to live in a Motel 6 for the next month and a half.
I just assumed that we're all Targaryens here and that the fire won't hurt us, right?
And I, being such a Ser Jorah in my regular life, I was just like, why don't you walk in and burn? I'll watch you. I'll be here in the morning. Anyways, back to the fighting pits. Great moment. You got the witty banner that we were talking about. Love. Danny's kind of bored over it. Wish she wasn't here watching the death. And all of a sudden, she hears this voice in the background.
the Westerosi Night.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many times is this guy not going to get the hint?
What is Jorah's goal? I don't get it.
I think for him, as David's yelling from the background, he loves her. He does. He loves her, and he doesn't want to go down without being back in her good graces. That's
I guess.
what I think
Look,
it is.
even I, the king of unrequited love, at some point goes, I'm just going to head to the bar. I'm going to the bar.
Where is he going to go? It's at this point, it's like
He's got Grayscale. I know.
He knows he's dying, so it's like, this is the only thing that matters to me is her knowing that I was true to what I was saying, that I actually care about her, that I was actually trying to protect her and keep her safe.
So he's going to prove that by fighting in a pit.
That's the only way he can get in front of her.
Okay. I just don't understand what the best case scenario for him is in this. But I get it. He doesn't exactly have a lot of options.
This was his version of standing outside her window with a boombox playing in your eyes. This was his version of it. This was it. But hey.
Check out my grayscale, kids.
I thought that was a damn good fight. There's been some fights this year that maybe haven't the Sand Snakes come to mind, where the fights kind of left us going, a little rehearsed. This was a pretty brutal 6-man fight. It was a free-for-all Texas-style death match here. It was great. And a lot of different fighting styles. So the Rocky, the water dance fighting style was in play there. A lot of cool stuff, cool moments. Did you think at any point, and actually it's fair for all of us, because at this point that Dan and Dave could kill anybody. Yeah. How at peril did you think Jorah might bite it here?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I think it kind of harkened back to last week's episode with John, where it was like that fight, you actually did feel fear that he might get killed in the episode. And there have been some fights, like you said, where maybe there wasn't that much urgency or weight there. This fight felt that way. I was like, there were moments where I was like, oh, he's about to die, because they obviously wanted to build to that, because Danny is like, am I going to stop it? And that's when Tyrion's like, you can stop this at any moment. So yeah, I definitely thought there was a chance that we might lose Jorah, which it would have been awful.
He spent a lot of time on his back during this fight,
A little bit. I mean, they could have played with that, too. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. I'd have been surprised, but at the same time, especially with Danny choosing not to stop it and not choosing to save him, that could have been this whole kind of guilt thing that she got to play with for another few episodes.
But she didn't actually have to make the choice, because
she didn't.
As she's standing there and you can see, oh, crap, I better make some decision because he's going to get killed. The other dude comes in and kills the guy that was about to kill Jorah, and so it's like, oh, she's like, whew, that decision's off my plate.
Exactly.
And before we get to the end of the stuff here and get distracted, do you guys want to take a moment to really praise that necklace?
Yes.
Oh, God, do we love that necklace.
So cool.
The whole time. Move your hair.
There needs to be jewelry. I'm sure they have it. Someone's already making it.
Someone's making that.
Yeah,
or the torque doesn't go all the way around. It just has the wings down. We got a very good look.
Yeah.
Somebody.
It was good.
It was.
That was
and
beautiful.
I think it was cool because as we've gotten further and further with her, there's so much more stuff that has been building, where it's like, we talked about this, where I was like, have we seen the sigil for her yet?
The House
Yes,
Targaryen?
we've seen it before, but...
I believe so, because you guys got me kind of confused. I'm like, yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah.
Wait, have we seen it? And you're like, well, it's just so present. Maybe we think we've seen it.
Prominent.
But they hung it at other places. It was on the top of the pyramids. It was the Targaryen thing was out.
Okay.
It just
Targaryen.
it was very prominent this episode, which
We've
was
all
very
seen
cool.
it since season 1. Just out in marketing.
I've got it on drinking cups.
It was my phone case for a while.
Well, and I wonder if that's where up until this point, she has been a lot more reserved about it, and now it's like, nope, there's the sigil.
Mother of
I've got my
dragons.
dragon necklace on. I am the queen. These episodes, and I think that was something that they've been pushing her to have to make the decision to do, where it's like, you're the queen, you have to start the fight. Everyone's waiting on you. And up to this point, I don't think she's felt more like one of the people instead of the queen, even though she's making these big decisions. But I think this episode, where she's sitting up there, it's, you are separated from everyone else.
Yeah.
You are very different. You are the one making the decisions.
And so then Jorah comes out on top, kind of. And this was a great moment, I thought, that they played with what we know as Game of Thrones.
Good.
As Game of Thrones viewers, we're all yelling, "The guy's not dead yet. He's still squirming." And then Jorah goes. We're thinking maybe there's going to be a little Mountain Oberyn thing.
Well, it's because they start booing too.
Booing. He's got some crowd heat, and they call in pro wrestling we call that go away heat. And they're all mad. And he grabs a spear, and we're thinking he's going to do something.
Yeah.
And then boom.
Also,
saves the day. Great moment.
It made me think of Hunger Games, you know, when
Little bit.
Katniss shoots the arrow up there, and she's like,
Thank you
in
for
your
your
face.
consideration.
Which, I kind of thought that was what was going to happen there, where he throws the bow, and I'm like, I mean, the staff, the spear, use your words, Tiffany. And I'm like, what was he throwing it at, you know?
Yeah.
And then
we thought his I was like, Dario, get
I thought
Dario.
it was going to be Dario.
Yeah.
And then
what
you
friend
realize,
zone?
it is the Sons of the Harpy.
That was a great moment.
Yes.
It was one of my
Holy
favorite
crap.
moments in 5 years of this show. I'm going to say it there. It was a great moment that didn't know was coming. Boom.
Yeah.
That realization that the
Totally
Sons of the Harpy
unexpected.
are attacking, full-scale attack, which is a bit of a change, but I like this type of change.
Such a
Michelle.
great reveal when they go to, I mean, just that one moment of, oh God, there's an assassin. And then they go to the crowd and it's like unveiling masks left and right. You're like, oh shit.
Well, and it immediately made me think of the conversation that Dany and Dario had, where Dario said, have the fights in the pits, and then murder all
the
of
masters.
all of the masters.
Which, by the way, point to him being the Harpy. Just
a
saying.
little bit of that, but I was like, Did he know this was coming? If he is with the Sons of the Harpy, then you're like, he knew that it was coming. Or was it just like, you actually do need to listen to this guy because he knows what you need to do to keep everything in order.
I'll bet on that side of it. Yeah, I'll bet on that side of it. But a crazy fight, big fight. His star gets some stabbing, but in true Game of Thrones, we didn't see him die.
Yeah.
See him die.
We saw him with the knife in the chest laying on the ground.
But
as
wasn't on the
everyone else
heart
left.
side.
But his eyes were open still.
Yeah.
He was
eyes were still
breathing
open.
heavy.
Tyrion gets into action here.
Yes. Oh,
Yes,
that was a
Tyrion.
Great moment. You
Great
know,
moment.
This guy for being the imp from the beginning and so looked over his entire
little
life.
guy.
He's pretty good in a fight. Going back and he took down the men in the mountain there on the way to
Killed
the
his
Eyrie.
dad.
Killed his
girlfriend.
dad. He's the world's leader in killing Lannisters right now.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All he has to do is start just hamstringing people. Just go through, start slicing Achilles tendons. You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's too. Oh, that was a good moment too.
Yeah, that.
Everybody protect your queen.
Yeah.
I liked the moment between Dario and Jorah.
Yep.
Also,
Where it
the
was,
whole, like, who's
do I
gonna
trust
protect
you?
her? Is this gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dario's
And
like, hey,
then-
go with him. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
And then he puts his hand out, and Dany takes it. That was the moment where I'm like, okay, that's all he wanted. At this point, he's like, I can die.
Although there was a
I know
slight
she
moment of,
trusts
don't
me
touch
again.
him! Don't touch his arms! No!
Yeah.
I think you have to be fully grayscaled to transmit it, but I wouldn't want to take that chance.
Yeah.
It's like when someone's like, I'm sick today, go ahead and leave my office. It's all right. And they run. They're trapped like Jedi in the Attack the Clones pit. Bill Holt in our chat room was the first to mention it. So glad Yoda and the
true.
Clone Army
Yep.
showed up. Very reminiscent.
She's wearing the white dress.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is
Very
what I
much
call
like Padme.
aggressive negotiations.
Yeah.
just needed the middle ripped out a little bit. Would have been good.
I did notice, though, and I think a lot of people talked about this, where it was like, she's wearing this white dress for so long. How is it not getting dirty? And then there was blood
They
on
get
it.
dirty.
This time, which I was like,
Matt S. points out Tyrion protected Missandei. He grabbed her. Grey Worm, of course, was infirmed. He's not in this fight. You got a lot of the Unsullied getting stabbed. It is the hour.
Yeah.
The end of the hour. Then all of a sudden, Dany kind of goes Drew Barrymore Firestarter. She kind of and a little Jedi action.
But I don't even think she knew. I don't
Do you think? Okay.
I don't think she was like
think she knew.
telepathically calling the dragon.
I'm making jokes. I don't think so too. But you guys think she just kind of felt it?
I think she was just ready, waiting to die. She was accepting death.
Because she takes Missandei's hand, and I think it was, we're gonna die. We've done this. We've done the best that we could do, and I'm okay with it. Okay, and that was the moment where Dragon.
And if you've ever been in a room where a dragon appears with Tiffany Smith nearby, you'll know there's some screaming and
Yeah.
shouting.
Burn.
I did not make my dragon noise this time, but I'll do it now. That was my baby dragons. Katie Sackhoff is better at like
Katie Sackhoff's
a
good
big
at the dragon sound on
I'm a
Schmoes
baby
Know, but,
dragon.
so Drogon comes in, and
Holy moly.
it looked relatively good.
Wrecked it.
Yeah. The fire, awesome.
Fire, awesome.
Yep.
Some
Drogon
good-
the Burninator came in.
Yeah,
I'm
some
liking
good
it.
stuntman
It's all good.
action there.
Yes.
It made me also so excited for when that's gonna happen to the whites, because I was like, he can just go show up and like burn up their entire army. It's gonna be amazing.
I like how you say that with the voice of an 8-year-old. Can he burn the White Walker army?
Yes, he can. He can.
Unless they have spears. That started getting ugly pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Those guys started fighting back much quicker than I expected.
I did actually think again, this is another fight where I was like, it's not. There's a chance that we're losing Drogon in this episode.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't think that again. You know, there's so many different properties out there in the world with dragons, and each one have different rules on how
Yeah.
you can kill a dragon. If it's in the Hobbit, it's a once in a lifetime shot to a
Only
little quarter-inch
one scale that's missing.
That one.
thermal exhaust port on the dragon.
Yeah.
But I didn't worry about that so much. But maybe it's because I kind of this was a moment we as book readers were reading. We got to it very different. But for me, this was a very exciting moment that paid off. For you as a bookie? Yeah?
Definitely. I loved it. As you know, as kind of cheesy as the CGI kind of got. I don't care. I had tears in my eyes. There's a
Yeah.
freaking dragon.
Yeah.
I was happy.
And-
no Quidditch.
yeah.
No
No
Quidditch.
Quidditch.
No Quidditch.
It
Yeah.
wasn't even, it was more so that it, like for me, yes, it was awesome seeing a dragon and seeing him really take on everybody else who was trying to attack his mother. But the stuff that I loved the most was the interaction between Dany and Drogon, where it was like, she looks over and she's like, oh my gosh, did I call him here kind of thing? And then slowly going over. And that was the moment where
Yeah.
I thought there's a chance Drogon dies, because they were connecting with each other. He's distracted. She's in the moment. And then he got speared a couple of times and she
Yeah.
pulls out the spear. And so it was just such a good
A
build.
lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still am like, cool. I'm glad you got to get on your dragon and fly away, but you left everyone behind. I think a couple more people could have fit. It's like in Titanic, where Rose is like, I'm the only one who can fit on this piece of wood. Sorry, everybody else, you can die. That dragon can fit more people on it.
That's a future Mythbusters episode.
Yeah. That's
Man.
right. How many people can fit
Proving.
on a dragon?
Exactly.
But she rides off into the sunset. This opens up a lot of different possibilities with
Yeah.
what Dan and Dave might do with that story. But she rides off, and that's it. We go to dark. And this was kind of a different episode, coming off a great one last week.
Yeah.
Great ending. The last half, the whole episode was great last week, but that last 20
Yeah.
minutes was amazing. Well received. This one had some up and down moments maybe in the fandom, but this was pretty good episode to follow up a big one.
So much
liked
stuff
it.
happened in this episode. I mean, the fact that you go from, Stannis's massive bonfire to Drogon coming and saving Dany. You're like,
Bonfire.
it's huge.
This
you
was
know?
probably the biggest emotional roller coaster episode
Yeah.
so far this season for me. I was just
Accented
I'm
by
gonna
a lot of fire.
Yeah, I'm gonna be stressed out until next week.
Yeah,
until next week.
we were all kind of affected, even me over in Team Stanisland, affected by Shireen screaming as she dies
Yeah.
on the thing. We were cringing, and then it's kind of by the end, you're like, try it!
Yeah. And we didn't talk about when we were talking about the Stannis stuff, but I kept thinking that it was going to be like a biblical reference where it's like, offer up your daughter, and then in the last second, they're going to be like, no, you don't have to,
a
actually.
little Isaac Abraham action
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, a little bit of
But we
that.
didn't
A little
get
bit.
that.
No, not Melisandre
hoping.
doesn't have that kind of thing in her. She's just
well,
kinda
the Lord of
Just
Light doesn't.
burn.
all the way to the end. So next week is the season finale of Game of Thrones. It is titled Mother's Mercy. That was announced last week after the season's title was officially hidden for a very long time. In fact, one time I think it was given a dummy title of Winter. It is now titled Mother's Mercy, and that opens up a world of speculation.
So many.
We won't go into here, but it's going to be fun. We're going to be back. Maybe you just come along and join us.
I'm just gonna watch no matter what, guys.
I think
I'm
you
just
need to be
gonna
here.
I'm gonna be crouching in the back like Gollum. It's fine.
Absolutely. No, it's been great to have you
Yeah.
with your insight.
We can get 4
We need to
Let's do it. I'm making that call now. Michelle joins us next week.
Yay!
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it
making
next
that
week.
call now.
And Alex is like, damn it, I gotta bring another mic.
Thanks, Alex.
I got 4 mics too.
I'll bring booze.
Yeah.
That's fine.
She's in definitely.
Yay!
So that is next week, and Maude will be here.
Yes.
Hooray.
Pull her back from.
I can guess what I think is good. I can say things that I think might happen because I haven't read the book, so
Sure.
no spoilers.
All right.
Just don't
Take
make
a guess.
faces.
Read the books. We don't know.
I mean, that could be
Yeah, at this
Mother's
point.
Mercy could have to do with Cersei
Okay.
because
Could.
she is a mother.
I'm writing these down.
I know, Cersei.
It could have to do with
Danny,
Dany because they
obviously.
call
Okay.
her mother.
Sure. Okay.
It could have to do with.
Alaria? I mean, she's a mother.
Could have
Okay.
something to do with.
I'd be
Alaria.
surprised.
Yeah.
But
Does it have to do with Dany and the dragons, or Dany and the people of Marine?
Okay, I'm writing that down. Okay. These are your predictions? Okay. I'm going to keep these
These
here
are
in this
just my
paper.
guesses.
Okay.
Does it have
Mercy.
something to do with Stannis and his wife, Namama?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I love
What's her
Stannis.
name?
I hope
What's
he
her
comes
name?
back. Celsi?
Selyse.
Celsi.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Could have something to do with that.
You're right.
too little, too late. Check.
Yeah, a little. It would be a little too late.
Okay.
Could it possibly?
I mean, what other
be
mothers do
something
we
with
have?
Lady Olenna?
That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
is she a
Lady Elena?
grandmother?
Yeah.
Okay, Lady Elena. This
Yeah.
We haven't seen Mace Tyrell's
is
wife.
great. Okay. So those are Tiffany's predictions of what Mother's Mercy means next week. We'll check in next week to find out what that means.
Yep.
I say we're all wrong and it's the name of a poison.
That could be it as
don't-
well.
Could be.
Could be it as well. Could be the name of the game that the Sand Snakes were playing when they were slapping each other. Who
well,
knows?
you're like. Also, is it mercy of someone not killing someone or killing someone?
Oh, that's a good point.
Don't know.
Could be. So next week, gonna tune in here. We go live roughly 8:15, 8:30, whenever we pour the second glass of whiskey. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that next week. It's been a fun ride so far. Up and down season, of course, but I think it always is. Game of Thrones seasons are always up and down. Revisionist history makes you look back and go, season this was better than season that. There's up and downs all the way through.
Yeah.
This season has had some spectacular moments, and a lot has happened. A lot of characters dying, a lot of big moments, and I think next week will be a fantastic ending to season 5. So Tiffany Smith will be back, but until then, where can they find you and all your lovely work?
Yes. Make sure you follow me on social media at Tiffany's Tweets, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. Obviously, check out the End Full of Terrors bonus video that will be up this week. And then I do Star Wars Far, Far Away on Geek Nation every Tuesday. That goes up. And then Schmoes, Fandango, DC All Access, lots of stuff. But I'm super pumped to be back here next week. So make sure you check out the YouTube for End Full of Terrors. Check out Geek Bombs for the video version of this podcast. Knapsack Files for the audio.
You have to make an effort not to find her, actually.
It's true.
Yeah, actually, you do. I try
And
to
our
avoid it some
podcast,
days.
because we have it everywhere.
Yeah.
Stumble
No,
over
you
her.
don't.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Christopher in the chat room asks me this one final thing before I sign off, and that is oysters, clams, and cockles. Michelle Boyd, our unofficial 4th member of this ragtag band of Game of Throners. Where can they find you during this next week?
All the usual social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's Michelle Boyd everywhere. It's Michelle Boyd Online on Facebook. That's it. And then I just started doing Geek Bomb Book Club as well. But that's
big interview you guys had this
Ernie
week.
Klein,
Yeah.
because he's got a new book, Armada, coming up. Ernie Klein, author of Ready Player One, most
So
geektastic
good.
book ever.
Movie
yes,
coming out.
Yes,
Movie they're
new
working
one
on.
coming out, and the movie directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
is the
absolutely.
idea. Yes, I know.
Good stuff,
So
big stuff.
good things. Good
So
things.
She'll be back next week. Maude will be back next week. And of course, follow Maude at Maude Garrett. And Geek Bomb is her YouTube channel. Wonderful stuff on there. And that's where this video version is housed after we do it live on Sunday night. Knapsack Files podcast feed is where you can find the audio version of this, released usually by Monday afternoon. And a lot of stuff on that channel as well. And do not forget to follow I See the Frog and the fine folks over at Drama 3-4. I See the Frog. The wonderful partnership this year with them, letting us burn their candles and drink their whiskey.
And the house.
So until next week, this has been The Night is Dark. We'll see you.